This video is sponsored by Cord Company, manufacturers of the speaker cables and interconnects used by a British audiophile. For more information about these and their other products, please click the link in the description. I'm looking forward to giving you an overview of the speakers I reviewed in 2024. I'll give you an idea of what they sounded like, what I liked about them, what I didn't like, and why I was attracted to reviewing them in the first place. As always, the links to my full reviews are in the description of this video if you want more information. I've just checked, it's been 4.5 years since I published my first video. Thankfully, I've learned a little bit about video production in the interim. I'm about as comfortable watching those early videos as the missus is watching Nightmare on Elm Street, but they do chronicle my journey and I won't delete them. As this is the last video for 2024, I just want to take this opportunity to thank my viewers. Not everybody gets a chance to turn a passion into something more vocational. It's a privilege that isn't lost on me. And a special thank you to my Patreons. You guys rock. So let's get started. I'm a bit of a glutton for punishment. Doing one of these in-depth reviews in a week is a lot of work, but trying to cover 3 products, that is bordering on madness. Still, I did a number of group tests in 2024, and one of them was a trio of speakers that retailed for around £1,000. I've enjoyed a number of Dali speakers over the years, so I was keen to include the Opticon 2 Mark IIs in the group. They're the most affordable Dali speakers to be built in Denmark. Retailing for £999 a pair, the word from insiders is this is where you really start to get a sense of what high-end Dali speakers are about. The Opticon 2 Mark IIs feature a 29mm 1.2-inch soft dome tweeter, a little larger than normal. The 165mm 6.5-inch midwoofer is made from a proprietary paper pulp wood fibre material, a Dali trademark. Did you spot it? That's a vinyl wrap on speakers that retail for £1,000. I get why Dali did that. They were trying to hit a price point whilst building the speakers in Denmark, but I'd like to see an SE version with a real wood veneer finish for additional charge. The Opticon 2s deserve to look as good as they sound. These are detailed, natural sounding speakers with excellent sound staging and imaging abilities. There's also fairly decent dynamics on offer for speakers that most people would consider to be medium-sized two-way stand mounts. I was happy to get the Acoustic Energy AE500s in at the same time, a favourite amongst quite a few people in the industry, including professional reviewers. Technically, the £1,049 AE500s should feature in the price category above, but they're close enough. Because they're built in China, for this price they come in a lovely real wood veneer finish. These compact speakers are Acoustic Energy's flagship stand mounts, deploying a 125mm 5-inch carbon cone midwoofer. The 25mm 1-inch dome tweeter is unusually made from the same material to achieve greater tonal consistency between the drivers. It sits in a shallow waveguide. The AE500s sound remarkably similar to the Dali Opticon 2s in the sense that there's very good detail retrieval, the mid-range is wonderfully natural sounding, and these speakers do a great disappearing act. The sound is very free from the speakers. Small cabinets help with that, but the laws of physics bestow mixed blessings. That little midwoofer shows some signs of dynamic compression when things get motoring. I'm talking about busy tracks when you're playing at levels averaging 80 decibels or above. I'll tell you about the third speaker in the group test in a minute. I want to discuss another speaker I reviewed first. Wharfedale released the Super Dentons in March 2024, retailing for £999 a pair. Part of the Heritage range, the Super Dentons are compact 3-way speakers with a cabinet finished in a real wood walnut veneer. There's an offset 25mm 1-inch soft dome tweeter married to an offset 50mm 2-inch soft dome mid-range unit and a 165mm 6.5-inch woven Kevlar cone woofer. Let's be honest, the Heritage Super Dentons are going to win as many fans for the way they look as much as how they sound. These are dynamic, warm-sounding speakers, but they don't extract as much information as the other speakers that I've mentioned here today. The soundstage is big, but the imaging is a little bit diffuse. The bass is weighty, but it's also somewhat soft. There's plenty of decent high-frequency extension though, but it's the mid-range that defines the sound. A fullness in the lower mid-range and vocal region, and a little bit pulled back in the upper mid-range to give a relaxed presentation. Back to the third pair of speakers in my group test, the £799 Monitor Audio Silver 100 7Gs. For that price, piano gloss and real wood veneer finishes are available. The 200mm 8-inch mid-woofer is constructed from a proprietary material, CCAM, a ceramic-coated aluminium magnesium alloy. The 25mm 1-inch tweeter is also constructed from CCAM and sits in a shallow waveguide to aid dispersion. The resolution of these speakers is something else. I haven't heard anything like it close to the price. In fact, they're just a whisker behind my Amphion Argon 1s, which are double the price. That 8-inch mid-woofer, coupled to a cabinet that's fairly decent in size, allows the bass to extend down to 35 Hz. That's the -6 dB point. Percussive elements are delivered with such clarity and authority, and the note-to-note separation in the rest of the frequency range is exceptional. It makes it very easy to follow individual performers in the mix. There's a bit of leanness in the mid-range, and the tweeter does run a little hot, which means that some care is needed with partnering equipment and room placement. Stick with good quality gear and amps on the warm side, and have the Silver 100s pointing straight down the room with no toe-in. That'll help most people achieve a fairly neutral tonal balance. The effort is worth it because it's possible to build a system around these speakers with unrivaled levels of fidelity for the price, and that's why the Monitor Audio Silver 100s are the best speakers of 2024, below £1,000. I don't tend to review many subwoofers. Speaker manufacturers generally develop them as an afterthought to appeal to home cinema enthusiasts and to complete their ranges. Designers often opt for the largest cabinets they can get away with and the largest, longest throw woofers because they're chasing high SPL levels and low bass extension figures. Many inexpensive subwoofers, or the ones at the lower price ranges, tend to have totally inadequate bracing as well. The result is ponderous bass that you wouldn't want anywhere near a resolving 2-channel system. REL is different. All their resources are solely focused on developing subwoofers. They don't make anything else, and almost all their subs are designed for 2-channel systems. I wonder if my REL T7X is the only subwoofer at £1,000 that has the speed and articulation to keep up with my reference systems and some of the speakers I get in for review. But I prefer the looks of old REL subs. They're more understated, and the wood finish means that they can pass for a piece of furniture. So I was pleased when REL rekindled the design in late 2023 and requested a review unit. The Classic 98 retails for £1,299 and comes in a real walnut veneer finish. It's a sealed box unit with a downward firing 250mm 10-inch paper cone driver, just like subs from the Richard E. Lord era. Most modern RELs tend to have front-firing carbon drivers with downward-firing passive radiators. So does the Classic 98 have the looks of an old REL and the performance of a modern REL? Well, not quite. It's cleaner than my old Strata 3, but softer in the bass than a T7X. It's also £300 more expensive than the T7X. The reason is that wood finish. Nice subwoofer for the money though. A lot of American gear tends to lose its value for money when it travels to the UK, thanks to distributor margin. It's certainly true the other way round as well. So I was curious how the Mofi Sourcepoint 8s would compete with the best of British and European offerings at their £2,999 asking price. I won't go into a deep dive of the intricacies of the design here, that's in my review, but I'm sure Andrew Jones was inspired by tannoy speakers of the past when he was designing these speakers. The SP8s feature a 200mm 8-inch paper cone woofer designed to have minimal excursion to lower distortion, but unlike tannoy, instead of a concentrically mounted horn tweeter, we have a 32mm 1.25-inch soft dome tweeter. How does this American newbie compete with offerings from the old country? Pretty well. It isn't the most resolving speaker I've heard for the money, and for the size of speaker, the bass is a little bit polite and a touch soft. The treble isn't as well expressed as I'd ideally like either, but there's something about the presentation that I find very appealing. It's the lower mid-range. It's very full, fleshing out vocals and lead instruments, and the information that is extracted freely and openly thanks to that large driver. I like the Sourcepoint 8s. I reviewed an entire audio note entry system in the summer, comprising their iZero CD player, DAC and amp, and their AX1-2 speakers, the cheapest audio note speakers on the market at £1,950. There are some great components in that iZero system, but I did feel that the AX1-2 speakers were the weakest link. Although they sounded pretty nice with tube amplification, be it Audio Note's own amplifier or my Wilsonton R8, there's decent dynamics for a speaker about the size of an LS35A, even tonality, and good resolution. But the baby Audio Note speakers sounded flat with the solid-state amplifiers I tried, as if the custom 125mm 5-inch ScanSpeak paper cone woofer and 18mm 1/4-inch silk polyamide tweeter were over-damped by transistor-based amplification. I could see people hankering for an all Audio Note system being happy, but you would have to demo the AX1-2s with other amplification just to make sure that they react favourably. They're also a little bit pricey at £2,000 due to them being built in Austria. After being seduced by the Monitor Audio Silver 50s and 100s, I wasn't going to pass up the opportunity to be one of the first to review the new Studio 89s, released for sale on the 1st of July 2024 for £1,999. The optional £500 matching die-cast aluminium stands are well constructed, completing the aesthetic appeal of a striking-looking speaker with drivers in an MTM configuration. The Studio 89s have two 108mm 4¼ C-cam mid-woofers, sandwiching an AMT tweeter. All the drivers are developed in-house, featuring tech trickled down from the more expensive Platinum series. The Studio 89s are capable of stunning clarity and stereo imaging. If the recording and partnering equipment are up to the job, you can easily track the location of each performer within a layered soundstage. The leading edge and decay of notes is simply beautiful as well, but there is a bit of leanness to vocals and instruments, and they do run out of puff at higher volumes. I'm talking about heavy bass lines played above 80 decibels. I guess two 4¼ drivers can't bend the laws of physics either. In the spring, I reviewed a pair of speakers in the sub £3,000 category that are the closest thing I've encountered to replacing my beloved Proac Response 1 SCs in my affections. But the quad Revela ones don't retail for £3,000, they're £1,800, which makes them one of the greatest bargains in the hi-fi industry. They feature a 165mm 6½ wood paper pulp cone damped with para-aramid materials, termed Reveal, and developed specifically for the Revela project. It's mated to a 60mm 2.4-inch pure ribbon tweeter, similar to the one Quad use in the Junior Z series, but with an improved magnet structure and waveguide. Most speakers in this price range featuring a ribbon or AMT tweeter sound bright. Many of them lack refinement, and even the best ones, there's a disconnect between the very nimble tweeter and the more pedestrian mid-woofer due to a massive difference of inertia between the two drivers. Not the Revela ones. Quad have done an excellent job of integrating these two drivers. In fact, they perform so well across the board, it's hard to see where they've put a foot wrong. The combination of black and real walnut gloss finish is a little blingy for my conservative tastes, if I'm honest. I'd love to see a satin finish offered, but this is probably going to be falling on deaf ears. I can criticise the looks, but not the sound. There's great sound staging and stereo imaging. The bass is weighty, punchy and tight. The mid-range is resolving and natural sounding, and the highs are super articulate but not bright. In the frequency extremes, the Revelas outclass my old Proacs, but those pesky old 1SCs still sound a little bit more textured and nuanced in the mid-range. These are the best sounding speakers, modern speakers, I've heard for below £3,000, and that's why the Quad Revela ones are the best speakers of 2024 from £1,000 to £3,000. Towards the end of 2023, Jay Lee, who you may know from his YouTube channel, got in touch to inform me that he'd developed a set of speakers along with the guys at CSS. Initially, when I looked at them, I thought these are large speakers that may be a bit too much for my room, but Jay reassured me that they weren't bass monsters, so I was curious as to what he'd come up with and was happy to take them for a spin. The Typhon speakers retail directly from the CSS website for $5,500 US, plus shipping and taxes. The cabinets are a hexagonal shape finished in walnut veneer and a matte black. There are actually two separate cabinets. The bottom section houses two 178mm 7-inch paper cone woofers, digging down to 31 Hz anechoically, but well into the 20s with some room gain. The top section comprises an identical driver to take care of mid-range duties above 230 Hz, before handing over high frequencies to a soft dome tweeter at 2400 Hz. A standout feature other than the premium crossover parts is the ability to tilt the top section by up to 5 degrees in 1 dB steps to get better alignment of the drivers relative to the listening position. The bass is gorgeous, deep and clean, amongst the very best I've heard from speakers that I've reviewed. Also, the mid-range is rich and open, but not the last word in extracting every micro detail. The tweeter is capable, but again, not the most articulate that I've heard at this price. It's all presented in a very deep soundstage with a tonal balance that's a little bit on the warm and dark side, very much like the Mofi Sourcepoint 8s that I reviewed, but with greater bass. The CSS Typhons are currently on sale on the website for $3,000, and at that price, they're an absolute bargain. Some of the higher priced Dali speakers that I've heard offer great resolution and natural tone, but are dynamically a bit shy. So when the Rubikore series was launched in the middle of 2024, I thought why not try one of the floor standing models. The extra cabinet volume and cone surface area of the Rubikore 6s should address my dynamic reservations. The Rubikore 6s retail for £4,499, featuring two 165mm 6.5-inch paper pulp wood fibre midwoofers, with the bottom one operating up to 800 Hz in this 2.5-way configuration. Above 2600 Hz, the first tweeter takes over, a 29mm 1.2-inch soft dome, but a planar magnetic super tweeter kicks in above 14,000 Hz to ensure wide dispersion. Like a lot of Dali speakers I've encountered, they're very detailed and natural sounding, and in absolute terms, the Rubikore 6s offer decent dynamics, but they're almost a meter tall and have two mid-woofers. And these kind of capabilities are available from compact floor standers like the Neat Elite Classics and the Graham Audio LS6Fs, which only have one mid-woofer and achieve similar results. They're also £1,000 cheaper. In the spring, I reviewed a pair of speakers from an up-and-coming UK brand that has a lot of design elements that I personally look for from a high-end speaker. The Kerr Acoustics K300 Mark IIIs are a transmission line design with Baltic birchwood ply cabinets. The midwoofer is a wood pulp premium version of the famous ScanSpeak Revelator, measuring 165mm, 6.5 inches in diameter. The tweeter is a 60mm 2.4-inch Foundtech pure ribbon. There are also high caliber parts used in the crossover. Everything about this speaker is about delivering the best quality possible for the price. They're not cheap, £6,395, but oh boy, does it show in the performance. The bass digs down to 33 Hz, digs down cleanly to 33 Hz, embarrassing many compact floor standers, and the mid-range has a combination of organic warmth, energetic presence, and excellent detail. It's captivating. The high frequencies are exquisite and superbly well integrated. The K300 Mark IIIs need a lot of space to breathe. There's just a smidgen of bloom in the bass and lower mids, which is probably more likely my room interactions than the speakers themselves. I've heard the K300s in larger rooms than mine, where the speakers were a little wider apart and further away from room boundaries, but I can't achieve that here, and that touch of opaqueness in the bass and lower mids wasn't present. Yeah, these are equal to the finest speakers that I've reviewed, but they're not the winners here. That accolade goes to the £5,000 Alta Audio Alessas, which share some design elements with the Kerr K300s, a very similar Foundtech pure ribbon tweeter, but this time a 150mm 6-inch injected polymer Morel midwoofer and transmission line bass loading. Actually, the bass loading is pretty unique, a hybrid between transmission line and bass reflex. It's hard to separate the performance of the Altas from the Kerrs. They're both exquisitely detailed, wonderfully natural sounding speakers with awesome bass delivery. The Alta Audio Alessas also have the ability to disappear into a totally immersive sound field. They're a tiny bit cleaner through the bass and lower mids than the Kerr K300s, but I suspect that's because they're slightly better suited to my room. The K300s are a little bit bigger and bolder in their presentation, but I'm nitpicking now. These are both great speakers. The main difference comes down to price. The Alessas are £1,400 cheaper. I don't know about you, but I'd rather have that £1,400 in my pocket. And that's why the Alta Audio Alessas are the best speakers of 2024, above £3,000. So let me know what you think about the speakers I've covered in this video in the comment section. Also, if there's any speakers that you felt that were missing that you'd like me to review in 2025, let me know about those as well. I'm sure you know what to do by now. If you want to support me here and what I do, like, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification, check me out on Patreon. There's a couple of consultancy tiers you can access there if you think I can help you on your audiophile journey. Also, check out the ABA Club on Patreon, which has some great ways to interact with me and fellow Patreons. But for today, for now, a British audiophile, signing off.